Hello everybody and welcome to another PokeyPoke Devlog. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this particular episode on this particular topic because we're talking about something that's very new and very work in progress, so a lot of what I'm about to tell you about might change quite rapidly, maybe even tomorrow when I do my dev stream or whatever. I'm recording this on Thursday. I usually try and stream on Fridays, so I don't know, a lot of this might even change then. But I've been working on what happens when you pick up a gem. So some of you will already know from watching my streams, I've kind of changed how gems work in the demo, the now very old demo. I'm going to be making a devlog at some point about why not to make a really public demo of your game in super early stages of development. I kind of regret it, but it's there at the moment. I'm working towards an update for it to make it a bit better. But anyway, how it works there at the moment, and how the game used to work and how I thought it was always going to work is the gems kind of give you little one-liners, and they're named in the same way as like stars in Mario 64, for example, are named, where they're kind of named as something to do with what you had to do in order to get them, which is quite useful because they can also then act as hints or whatever. If you have a list of the names of the stars or the moons in Mario Odyssey and so on, like they can kind of give you like a suggestion of what you need to do or where you need to go in order to find them. So I thought that was kind of cool. But something I've kind of been lacking in the design of the game is a way to kind of communicate kind of some of the, well, just communicate in general, actually. I was going to say like the story and narrative, but just communicating in general. And, you know, at first I was kind of going for a bit of a no text kind of like thing, but I had to accept that I needed text at some points, just even like to tell you like the controls and stuff with the spear and things like that. Or I wanted to use text, right? I suppose you didn't have to, but I wanted to use text in some amount. And then it occurred to me what I could actually do, and something that has inspired these new gems a lot is, you know, the way Spyro works when you collect statues, the dragon statues. You free the dragons, and they have a name, they give it a little bit of dialogue, and they can serve a lot of different purposes. They can tell you stuff about the world, tell you stuff about the story. They can also give you hints about mechanics and gameplay and all that kind of thing. They can serve a lot of useful purposes, and they're built upon quite a simple foundation, or especially in the way I've done it in this game, a simple foundation of, you know, you pick up a gem, they have some dialogue, they say it, and then it goes away. And if you can make one of them look really, really good and nice, generally all of them are going to like look good and feel nice. Whereas trying to communicate stuff in the game through just like visuals and so on, and like trying to be crafty about it that way, it sounds like simpler, right? It sounds like, oh, there's like no text, like it sounds like less expensive almost, but it's not actually. It's more because each like thing you want to communicate visually, you've got to create unique visuals for and iterate upon those and so on, and that's actually a lot of work. So I actually really like this text idea better. Before I like pop into this gem and just sort of show you what it does now, what I've done very, very recently, so why I've decided to make this devlog about this thing, is I decided to actually add some voices to the gems. I'm just going to show you what it looks like now, and if you, hopefully I've got my audio settings right and you'll be able to actually hear it. So that's what it looks like and sounds like now. Now, some people were confused watching this on stream, so I just want to clarify one thing, is that you do control the pace of those text boxes, of course. Some people are like, oh, that went way too fast for me to read it, kind of thing. But you click in order to progress from one page to the other. I read kind of quick, so like if it felt like it goes really fast, don't worry. As each page of text finishes, you specifically click in order to go from one page to the next. Don't worry about that. Anyway, yeah, I've added these kind of like spooky, ethereal, procedural voices. I'm not finished with them yet, so like that's not necessarily the final sound of them. But I was kind of proud of like how I set that up. And you may have noticed that they speak in time with kind of the letters and words. If you ever played Animal Crossing, it's a very, very similar system, whereby I've essentially recorded myself saying every letter of the alphabet, or not really so much the letter, but the sound. So like a, b, s, d, and so on, right, of every single letter. And then I literally play whichever letter is said by the as each letter is printed. We play a sound for each letter. And now I use Scribble by Juju Adams, really cool library for drawing text, and it has a built-in function that allows you to add a custom function of your own to be run whenever a character is revealed by the text, which is extremely useful and allow me to basically set this up super easily. So yeah, I've rambled on a bit, but that first gem, as you saw, kind of just like gave you a little bit of exposition about, like, you know, landing on the island, and you know, if you hadn't already worked it out by the fact there was a crashed plane outside and the other stuff we're going to do with the intro, you crash landed on the island, and so like it clarifies that for you. It sounded like there was a plane crash, you know, are you okay, kind of thing. And helps just sort of explain like your main goal, which is to get to the other side of the island, and so on. So like that helps me in terms of just like narrative of the game and so on, and help the player understand what's meant to be going on. And also just helps me like mechanically explain things. Like they serve a lot of different purposes. It's like, and some of them just are kind of just, you know, I just do things that I think are interesting with them. I try and give each one a little bit of personality. You know, they've all got names. Try and give them all a little bit of character. One thing I want to do with the voices is I want to actually be able to, and this will actually be very easy, I'm going to be doing this quite shortly, is modify like the pitch. I already put like a randomness kind of on the pitch, so it kind of sounds a little bit more natural as it's speaking. But what I'm going to do is have like a base pitch for like each individual gem, so that they sound kind of different from one another. I'm just going to play this one now, just, it's here. The thing is, I have to stop talking whenever I play each one, because otherwise my audio ducking will cut out. So anyway, we can listen to Pi. So yeah, the dialogue of that one, like I don't have anything mechanical or anything to teach you here, but the idea of this gem in the first place is you see it as you fall down from the intro here, and it's like, oh, I wonder what that is, and you can, like, you know, go a slightly optional path around here to get it. And there's no reason you have to get it, and every gem you have to get is optional. So I kind of just wanted to talk about that idea and that feeling that, like, oh, there's something around the corner, and you felt like you had to go and get it, that kind of thing. And a lot of the gems talk about that kind of thing if they're not serving any other particular like purpose or whatever in the game. They're kind of used to convey the kind of story and the sort of ideas and philosophies, if you will, of the people that used to live on this island that you've crash landed on. Okay, this one I think is a bit more tutorially. We talk about like the rock and like the ground and so on, and the sort of difference. Yeah, so that one kind of just explains like rock reacts differently, just helps like solidify this tutorial, which I already thought was pretty good, but now it's like, you know, we can have some explicit dialogue about it that doesn't feel intrusive. You don't even have to pick up this gem and even listen to that, you know, like there's a way to be able to like be explicit while also tying it all in narratively, which I really like. Anyway, yeah, I really do want to be able to like change their voices, which I think will be kind of easy to do, and I think it'll add a lot to have some of them talk kind of quietly, to give each one their own kind of voice. It's also possible for me to, you know, get other people, maybe other literal human voices, to record like versions of letters and give actual like different voices to some of them. I think that could be really cool. There's a lot I could do with it, and like it's quite basic how I've started it off. But I'm really happy with it so far. If you're wondering how the effects, kind of like how it sounds, by the way, what I did at first was bake reverb and so on into like each letter that was spoken. If you want to do a system like this, yeah, don't do that. It doesn't really work very well, it turns out. What actually ended up happening when I then played each letter back is like all the reverb overlapped with one another, and it all sounded like it was like really too heavy and bassy, like no matter what. So like yeah, you can't really pre-bake those effects into the sounds. So all the sounds that are in the game are actually just like the raw, dry recording of just me going b, s, k. And all those effects, that reverb and so on, is actually using the new stuff in GameMaker. I might actually just be able to show you. Yeah, some of it's here. Well, this is kind of debug stuff. But we use this new voice bus thing. I don't know where. where did I set this up again? Interim while I find my own code. Somewhere around here, yeah. So we create an audio bus, and then we play all of the voice sounds on this bus, and we can add effects to that bus. I didn't know if it would work like this, I just hoped it would, but it turns out, yeah, when you play sounds on a bus and we apply these effects, they actually blend together quite well, as if they're all just playing one sound. Because the audio just like goes onto the bus, and then the bus is what gets the effect. So I've added like a delay effect. I was experimenting with some other effects, because there's all kinds of things I might try out. But yeah, mostly a reverb and a delay to kind of create that weird kind of voice. The other thing that inspired me, I might put a little clip of it in, are the Amarosians from Final Fantasy XIV and the way they speak. If you're familiar with Final Fantasy XIV or not, I'll just play a clip so you see the voice. So yeah, like that, assuming I could find a clip and put it in. Anyway, yeah, so that's kind of what I inspired that kind of like that voice, just these like ancient spirits. I mean, they're very similar in concept for me, like lore-wise, to the Amarosians in a lot of ways. So I was inspired by that kind of sound. There's other things I want to be able to do as well, like I'm going to, or what I'm planning to do is, along with sort of, you know, changing the pitch and changing the voice for each one, is modulating the voice somewhat based on what is being said, so that it really feels, you know, more and more like a voice that is saying the words as they are coming up. And that is to do things like just on a very simple level, like if there's a question mark at the end of a sentence or end of a line, we can like cause the pitch to like rise up. And what I think I'm going to do for that, haven't done it yet, but what I think I'm going to do is use kind of some Perlin noise, first of all, to generate the randomness for the pitch, because I'm kind of just doing it with a sine wave at the moment, and I don't think that's particularly good. So use like a line of Perlin noise to sort of generate the random pitches, and then just sort of create like a ramp of high values. If you don't know what Perlin noise is, don't worry about it. It's just, I might do another video on that at some point. It's a popular topic. But basically it's like a smooth randomness. And you know, if you ever seen like render clouds in Photoshop, for example, that's Perlin noise. You know, it's like randomness but smooth randomness. And so what I'm going to do is use like a line of that to generate the pitches, like just so there's sort of a randomness, and then like have a ramp up of values towards like a question mark, so it kind of like there's kind of that inflection on the end of the sentence. And I think there's other like common things with like where sentences end and so on and start, to where we can adjust the pitches and so on to kind of match kind of a human, more human sort of speech pattern, so which I think might be really interesting. So I don't know, let's just listen to some more of these, I guess. So I really like this one here, like as a way to explain the respawn mechanic. Basically the idea being kind of conveyed here is there's some sort of weird technology that these people invented, or magic, or what, you don't really know, that means that when you die you just sort of reappear. Because I mean, initially that might just seem kind of weird, or you might not even think anything of it, because it's like, I'm playing a video game, yeah, I died, respawned, whatever. That's actually probably what goes on, but like I always think it's really nice when a game like is able to tie in its mechanics and its narrative, to have them kind of like make sense. I don't think it's important, you know, like I don't think mechanics have to make sense narratively or whatever. It doesn't, you know, I don't have to provide a reason why when you die you respawn and that kind of thing. But I think if you can, and I think it like kind of flows and feels right, I think it adds a lot, and I think it really just makes everything like blend together like really, really nicely. So yeah, I really like being able to use kind of the dialogue to kind of give little explanations and reasons for that kind of thing. And this is just one example of that. This is another thing I'm doing a lot with the dialogue as well, is like, because all the gems are optional, as I said, so a lot of these early ones kind of remind you of the critical path of the game. We talked about that before, of like going to the east side of the island. If you remember my critical path video, that's sort of the main route through the game. And obviously I want people to go off and explore and do random things, but if a player is kind of lost and that's the reason they're finding these things, I want to just drop those little reminders that, you know, if you want to leave, you're going the wrong way. You know, you want to go east or whatever for that. But if you don't, that's cool. In fact, it's encouraged, and I think we'll encourage it more in a second. Yeah, so that's route. And yeah, I don't know. I'm really happy with changing this system around. At first, I was really attached to the whole idea of just doing these little like one-line descriptions and so on. And I thought maybe I'd be adding a ton of work for myself, and I kind of am, of like adding, you know, needing to do dialogue for every like gem in the game. But my scope for gems in the game is not actually that high. Like, there's not that many. It's actually good for me to keep the dialogue kind of short and snappy. I think some of them are honestly too long at the moment. Even some of the ones we've watched, I'm trying to like find ways I can kind of trim them down while still kind of doing everything I want to with them. But like, yeah, keeping them kind of short and sweet and snappy and so on. It lets me include a lot of things. Like, I don't know, it really kind of like re-energized me in terms of like communicating things like the lore and ideas and stuff of the game, actually like freeing myself up to be able to add writing. Because I think a lot of people talk about, especially with like small indie games and so on, how it can be a really good idea to constrain yourself and like give yourself limits, and like have that breed creativity. Like a lot of ideas like, oh, create a game with no dialogue, for example. Because you create a game with no dialogue, you've got to work out other ways of communicating things, and that can and does breed creativity, and people like, do that kind of thing a lot. But there's definitely something to be said for not constraining yourself unnecessarily. You know, like, I think I started with that premise, like, oh yeah, I'm not going to have any dialogue in the game or anything like that, it's all going to be commute. But actually that kind of like, it just makes things harder for me for the most part. And a lot of the ways I could solve the things without dialogue were either not that interesting to me, or were actually more expensive and more difficult to pull off, than just unconstraining myself and deciding, you know what, we can add dialogue. I'm still working on the way it's presented, like the text box and the names and the way they show up. Let's get this one down here so I can just sort of bring one up. If I can even make it. Whee! No! Oh, I'm too terrible at my own game. Oh my god. We'll get it. We'll get that, guys. There we go. Yeah, we'll get tone here. So yeah, I'm still working on how I want to display this, specifically like the way the name appears and like floats up. I've literally just written that code before making this video. Literally just made that. But yeah, I'm not like, you know, attached necessarily to the way it looks at the moment. We're working it out. We've gone through loads of different kind of like styles and iterations for it so far. We're just trying things out. But I'm quite liking so far. I like the zoom in. I thought I would kind of hate it with the way, like, you know, the text and, you know, we've got this UI there that's actually a slightly different resolution now to the rest of the game. But I actually think it's worth it. I actually think, like, because it's like two different layers, as it were, it kind of works. And I just think the way it's framed and so on with the zoom in is actually really nice. And if I actually double up the text to fit, that doesn't look so nice. And everything I tried with it zoomed out, I didn't really like as much. So I'm really liking it. I'm liking the direction, even though everything is not quite fully polished yet, if that makes sense. I can't remember what I was saying. Something else about this. It doesn't matter. Let's listen to what Tone had. This is quite a long one, but I actually quite enjoy the dialogue of this one. So you'll see there again, another reminder, like, oh yeah, just you go to these, like that will drop off. It's really kind of only like the first few scattered around in the sort of optional routes you might go, oh, this is a bug. Where it kind of like flip between underwater and above water constantly at the surface. It's been there for ages. I've never quite been able to like, I keep thinking I've solved it and then it keeps coming back. Anyway, yeah, I like that, again, just these little narrative explanations for why things happen in the game. Like, if you just, like, I didn't know what to do here initially, like, with this end of here. It's like, oh, what do I do? It's like, well, we just sort of kill you, I guess, if you swim off and bring you back. Because I guess that makes sense. You swam too far and you drown or whatever. Oh, wow, this is happening a lot now. That's really annoying. Anyway, yeah, so I was like, I just set that up, and I thought it was all right by itself, you know. I was like, oh, yeah, you swim too far if you drown kind of thing. It's just sort of invisible wall. But I really liked being able to just put that little explanation there of like, well, we know if you're going to try and swim out from here, we're in the middle of the ocean, you're just going to die, so we're going to bring you back so you don't die. Whatever. That's kind of what the is implied, the magic of the island is doing in that way. And then they say, yeah, if you actually want to leave the island, there is a way, but you're going to have to go to the east side of the island for that. Again, just another way to tie that in there. If I get a green gem, that, I mean, actually, I was like, oh yeah, I can show you how those are different as well, but really, all I do that's different with them, I think, is change the color of the name, if I remember. Yeah, I'm too terrible at my game to get that quick. So, but yeah, like, so you notice that, like, the names are in blue or whatever on the gems at the moment. They come up the color of the gem you pick up. Is there a red gem I'm happy that we've all seen already in the devlogs? I don't want to spoil too many of them because some of them are really hidden. Oh, I think there is one. Okay, we'll go get the one in the tunnel, assuming I can make that. That's even hard. It can be even harder. Because I do something with red gem dialogue as well, where I add a bit of dialogue to the very first red gem you get to kind of explain the difference. I think I might want to do the same thing with green gems as well. Although, honestly, with green gems, I'm not sure what the difference is. Like, I genuinely don't. Like, I decided that gems in trials should be green. And I don't... Like, I think the main distinction was that you could get them again. Because you could kind of run them like ILs, you know, for speedrunning individual levels or whatever. And I could, like, show you your best time or whatever on getting a green gem from the start of a trial. So I think that was actually kind of the key difference. But I don't actually really know how to, like, explain that in a simple way. Red gems are just harder to find and harder to get. Like, they're just rarer, right? It's just a rarity thing. Whereas green gems, I don't know if rarity is the right way of putting it. It's like they're trial gems. And that's the sort of concept. Yes, I don't know. But anyway, let's check out this red one. Like a red name. This one's a bit long. I need some better line breaks in it. And then, yeah, this is the bit. So, like, if I got a ruby already, this wouldn't come up. But because this is the first ruby I've picked up in the game, we add this little bit of dialogue on the end. So it doesn't matter which one, it would always say this. Which is can be hard to make fit. Like, it can kind of feel weird when they, like, say something that's, like, I've got to really make the end of each red, like, dialogue really feel like an ending so that you kind of get the idea that this is, like, it's hard to explain. Like, the flow of dialogue, it can be a bit weird when you just add something on that can be added on to any piece of dialogue. It's weird. Writing is difficult. So that's the thing you can avoid by not putting text in your game, is writing is very difficult, and if you don't put any text in your game, you don't have to do any, so that can be cool. It's way harder than it's a very underappreciated skill, honestly is. It's the kind of thing that everyone thinks they could easily do until they actually start really trying to do it. Yeah, writing's hard. Anyway, yeah, they say this, and I'll just play this. I really need to break up this line by adding some, like, line breaks and stuff in here. One thing I did also do when I added in this voice thing, before that point I'd been kind of setting up pauses and so on in the dialogue manually. You'll notice whenever it gets to a full stop, there's like a brief pause, and then it, like, carries on typing, you know, like as you would with, like, punctuation and so on, right? I was kind of doing that manually by setting the appropriate scribble tags and so on. You can put that. And I'll actually just show you the JSON file, because that could be kind of interesting. Included files, Open Explorer, lock English. So yeah, this giant file here. Can I make it? I actually don't know what the shortcut is in Sublime. Oh, okay, we can just control scroll wheel. So yeah, like we've got all of these, like, yeah, we've got the first ruby thing here that we add onto all the rubies. We've got a sort of a default gem. Like if you've any of the ones I haven't written are all called Norm, and they all just say this. I'm kind of sick of seeing this now. I need to write more of the gems. Yeah, and then like these are some of the ones that we've already seen. Some of the ones we haven't. You can see I have to type this like /n to do a line break manually. It's tempting to add it automatically with a full stop, but anyway, yeah. Before doing this voice thing, I would also add things like delay. I think the name of the tag was delay, or it might be like pause break or something like that. And you can set that to like a specific number of milliseconds. So it could be like delay 450 after like, but I was doing that in places and trying to work it out and so on. I was like, oh man, this is really hard to maintain. And I kept seeing new ones where I was like, oh, I haven't put one here, I haven't put one there, and so on. Then it occurred to me immediately when I put the voices in and I heard them speaking the words. I was like, wow, they really need to have a break between every full stop. They really need to have a break between every comma, you know, because you do. Like, that's what punctuation, it literally punctuates, you know, like that's how it works. And I was like, wait a minute. Why have I been doing that manually? I should just bake all that in. So now what I do is whenever we start up the dialogue, we actually do like string replace on all of the dialogue that as it comes up. I don't know if I want to pre-bake it, maybe just run this entire script through like a thing just like when I run the game to get it all out of the way, but it doesn't seem that performance intensive right now, so I'm not too worried. But yeah, I go through the text as I want to sort of parse it ready to do one of those dialogue boxes and that, and I just add breaks after every full stop, or after every full stop with a space in front of it, because also we sometimes do triple ellipses and so on, and we also do one after a triple ellipses, and there's a bunch of different conditions, exclamation marks, question marks, all that kind of thing. And it's amazing because it meant I could go in here, remove all my manual ones, and now all of the dialogue just looks way better. It just didn't occur to me until it was actually being spoken in voice that, oh yeah, every single one of these full stops needs a break. Every single one of these commas needs a break. And since every single one of them needs a break, I can just add it, procedurally. The same way I'm doing the voices. So that would have been worth doing even if I didn't do the voices, but it was only doing the voices that made it occur to me that would have been such a good idea to do. So yeah, that's, I don't know, I hope that was kind of interesting, just to look at how the voices are so far. Probably another episode on this in the far future when it's actually like properly finished, but as I say, it's kind of work in progress at the moment, but I think it's going quite well. I think it's a big step up overall and gives me a lot more options than like the way I was doing it before and currently exists in the demo. I think it's a lot richer and more interesting. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. Don't know what you guys think of it. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you'd like to hear me talk about with the game as well. Always like, trying to think of new things that people might find interesting, like how I approach them or how I'm thinking of approaching them and so on. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to my patrons funding what I do, and I'll catch you all next time.